the world holds dear is but a backdrop of constant motion. I stand before it, alone and unchanging.
That is her eternity, and this is an analysis of Raiden's timeless kit and her worth as a pole. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening YouTube, it's your Slime King, the Jimmy Man, and welcome to another video. Raiden Shogun was once misunderstood, and I've already went through that in another video. Today, we'll be discussing Raiden's strengths, weaknesses, her kit's design, and lastly, whether she is truly worth your primo gems. Let's get into it. Raiden Shogun has two distinct strengths: her energy generation and her ability to fill in gaps of on-field time for her team. The former is easier understood than the latter. Energy generation is as simple as it gets. Raiden's E produces around 30 particles per minute, which puts her at par with Fischl as the best generators of electroparticles in the game. Top that off with a burst that literally tops her own burst off with the addition of giving 20 plus energy to your entire team, and it's not hard to see why she is one of the best batteries in the game. A battery is a vital part of any team comp, and the fact that Raiden can do so for any element, albeit not as good as the same element batteries, is a niche that only she is truly capable of. Her other strength is that she is able to fill in gaps of on-field time for her team. Here is an example to better illustrate my point. Raiden National. This team sans Raiden normally would either be attacking with Bennett and funneling to Xiangling, or using Sucrose. But by using Raiden instead of Sucrose or Kazuha, sure, you lose the VV buff, however, what Raiden brings is actually so good that VV becomes the lesser option. Raiden fills in the downtime of this team perfectly while adding damage and providing energy to the team. She is such a good fit into this team that you wonder what potential lies in her other comps. We'll get into that later. Before we get into her weaknesses, first, let's talk about her damage potential. A popular adage that has spread around during her release was that she needed to be supported by the best units like Kazuha and Bennett in order to become a DPS. This is an outright flawed argument. The fact is, only Raiden can abuse these supports to the limit. Let me explain why. Kazuha's buff lasts for 10 and 8 seconds. Bennett's buff lasts for 15 seconds. Raiden's burst lasts for up to 11 seconds with hit lag. And the real deal hits when you can loop these rotations over and over again. In a Raiden Hyper team consisting of Raiden, Kazuha, Bennett, and Sarah, not only does Raiden abuse all these supports' timings to the bleeding edge, she also provides energy for them that by the time her next burst comes back up, everyone's burst will be ready again. She perfectly synergizes with the timings of these units. The argument that replace Raiden with any other unit in this team and they'll do just as well is refuted. Because past one rotation, those other teams are unsustainable, and thus, Raiden Shogun unlocks their true potential. With all that said, Raiden's on-field time can be both a blessing and a curse. This is the perfect time to get into her weaknesses. Her on-field time demands respect and attention. She wants to be the star of the show in those 11 seconds on field, and in some teams that is a disadvantage. For example, in Eula Beidou Raiden variations, the rotations are simply so long that it ends up being barely an upgrade. However, the comfort of that team makes it better overall in my opinion. And then, her on-field time also demands that you invest into her. If you're not prepared to hyper-invest in Raiden, she will feel very lackluster. At C0, she has a bit of an identity crisis. There are two conflicting parts of her kit, the one side that wants to do damage, and the other side that wants to support. An eerily similar parallel to A in Makato's descent to plight in-game. It's not that build choices that destroy her role, because no matter what build she does, her kit synergy is built on the foundation of ER is damage. Therefore, no matter what build you go, she will do a semblance of damage. The conflict lies in what she wants to do in a team. A traditional battery wants to swap in, create particles, and funnel to your carry. While Raiden's core philosophy is to swap in, burst, and attack for 10 seconds in order to battery. That is fundamentally contradicting the role of a battery such as Dione or Sucrose. And thus, it might strike confusion in many players, and that is why there was such a mixed reaction to her release. This is a good opportunity to examine her kit as a whole. I said that her role confusion and contradiction was one of her weaknesses. However, that is not entirely true. You see, Raiden Shogun's kit is very complex and very unique. In fact, she is the only character in Genshin Impact that fulfills such a goddamn role. With Raiden, we have to shift how static our viewpoints on roles are. Her kit is a perfect example of Hoyoverse creating an entirely different role in a team that we have frankly never seen before, and thus she shouldn't be classified as a Barry or a support or a DPS. She is the one and only Electro Archon who also happens to pull a sword out of her booba. She fulfills many different roles, even if she is not necessarily the best at them. That kind of role consolidation in a unit makes her potential limitless. This is the reason that despite of Teyvat's constant motion and banner cycles, Raiden's unchanging timeless kit will always have a place in our teams. So, we've reached that point of the video, boys. Is she worth the pull? Here's the thing, right now only Raiden National truly takes advantage of all of Raiden's strengths. However, she fits into so many teams, unlocks so many others, meta or otherwise, and makes these teams overall more comfortable and easier to play that it's hard to ignore how good of a unit she really is. In my opinion, Hoyoverse nailed it with not only her kit's design, but how it is so cohesive with her character's lore. There's one last thing though. What about the Beidou interaction? Why won't Raiden work with Beidou? That is a sad, unfortunate truth. Hoyoverse will do nothing to address this issue, and it deeply saddens me as these two units have such a great synergy if they worked. The fact that despite this, she is still so good means only one thing to me. For me, she is worth the pull. After understanding her kit, it's probably worth your pulls too. So tell me what you think down in the comments below. Do you agree? Or do you see the Electro Archon's Eternity as something entirely different? I'm genuinely interested to know. Or better yet, come at me at Twitch at twitch.tv/TheGMan, where I stream Genshin almost every day. This is our parting. Farewell.
Don't try and get me to cook. I can take care of anything else, but not that.